Okay, everybody, here we go. Time to hit the road. This is the Good Life meditation for today. I hope I've got the microphone in a good spot. We're at the Green River Starbucks, which is my recently regular stop on the way home. It's funny how that developed. And we are off. Let's ride. So we're about halfway home along my commute. So we just get up here. It's kind of an interesting place. It's like midway between the Orange County and the Inland Empire, the pretty mountains over there. And it's just about nightfall. Anyway, I'm going to do my Good Life meditation, which is something that I do every day, usually in the morning. And I do this to remind myself of my 6 objectives and my 20 principles. For the reason of maintaining these, but also for the reason of solidifying them deeper every day into my my way of life, into my being. Ooh, sounds so touchy-feely, into my being. But I mean that, it really does become, the more I do this, the more I think about it, the more I remind myself, the more it just becomes a way of life for me. So with that, let's get started. First are the 6 objectives. The first of these is to be always ready for death. So, excuse me, I've got this fuzzy dead cat that's getting all kinds of cat hair, so to speak, into my mouth. Here we go. Let's get ahead of this car. Sorry. Always be ready for death. Be ready for death every moment. So have all my affairs in order. Have a document ready for my wife knows about that has all of our bank accounts and balances, so she can access that information. Well, I didn't have the balances, but you know what I mean. So she can access and have ready access. Make sure my life insurance is in order. All that kind of stuff. Also, make sure that my personal relationships are in order. Would I be leaving if I die right now? Would I be leaving my daughter, my wife, my brother, my mom? In a good state. Have we left anything? Is there any unfinished business between us? And also creatively. Have I completed my book? Yes, I have. Well, I've got some editing to do still. Is there more to do? Yeah, there is, but that stuff is largely superfluous and additional to the task. I feel like I completed my main life creative objective now. So I'm free to go anytime I want. Oh, sorry for yelling into the mic. Next is number 2 is the good and effective use of time, to not waste my time. I like to say, when there's no time in my life for reruns. I don't have time to watch the Itchy and Scratchy show more than once, and maybe not even that. Although Itchy and Scratchy is pretty good. But you know what I mean. There's enough, so much beautiful, wonderful creativity and works and beautiful words and things to see. I know it sounds like kind of a poetic aspiration that really maybe not that achievable, but it is achievable. I really can use my time well, and I strive to do so, including at work, to make sure that I lay out my objectives for the day and then follow through on those to the best of my ability. Come home with a happier heart, knowing that I did a good job at work. Look at, there's some police action on the side of the shoulder up there in the freeway, the inside median. Next is number 3. Third objective is the cultivation of good emotional reactions, to get myself into a position where it's pretty hard for me to fly off the handle. And I really had a good incident this weekend where, I was really challenged emotionally a little bit, and I wanted to kind of get upset, but I didn't. And I'm glad I didn't. And that becomes increasingly easier over time, because so often the cause of our upset is a misunderstanding. And by focusing on controlling my emotions, I get a lot of dividends out of that. And it's not, as sometimes said, it's not like it blows up in some other way. I don't find that to be the case. I find that I handle the problems through other means, and I find myself satisfied by the experience of a more mature solution to a problem than just bottling it in. So it's not a matter of just holding it in. It's a matter of of holding it in, sampling it, deciding whence does this emotion come, and coming up with a course of action to deal with it. Next is the performance of good actions, just doing good things through the course of the day, little things and medium-sized things and big things when I have the chance. Really makes a difference in life, and especially when you have a good set of principles to abide, then it's easy to recognize what those good things are. Next one, final one, is the this is number 6, is the recognition of true limits and true opportunity. Just being clear with myself about what I really am capable of doing and what I may not be capable of doing. Like, I'm 53, I probably am not capable of spending, or not, at least not doing very well, of not becoming a brain surgeon at this point. I probably don't have the mental capability nor the time to do that. It is probably not a good use of my time. Yeah, maybe I could, but not practically. On the other hand, it is within my capability to make more creative works in my life, to live fruitful years, and to find meaning in my everyday. So things like that, recognizing what's probably not practical and also what is, and finding a balance between those. Now let's move on to the 20 principles. The first of those is the principle of war. Yeah, war. War upon everything that I hold dear. I wake each morning, and nothing would please me more than to finish the day bereft of any principles or objectives, having shown every one of them to be false or lacking or weak or insubstantial. Because I don't want to believe things that aren't true, even if they give me comfort. I'd rather die lost, confused, dazed, and unsure, frightened, than live a moment comforted by something that wasn't actually true. So I wake every morning and I go after these 20 and these 6 as I'm doing now. And I don't do it right now. I don't really attack them right now, but I do attack them in free moments. And I ask myself things like, is it really a worthwhile thing to be? Is it really good to be thinking about death? Isn't that kind of morbid? Why would you do that? I've asked myself that many questions, and every time I found it to be indeed a useful activity, so I keep it up. Next, number 2. If number 1 is war, 2 is reason. Reason is the tool that I use to execute this war upon everything that I hold true. Reason, of course, is the examination of the world and facts and conclusions, and do the conclusions match the facts? It's a very empirical thing. So the sub-principles of reason are honesty and objectivity. I need to be honest with myself and objectively look at the world in an objective manner. There's not much room in my worldview for feelings alone. Feelings are all right, but they're not good grounds for the foundation of principles or objectives. I'd rather deal with facts, and that's a turnoff to some people. But that's the worldview that I prefer. So I'm trying to take my hand away from my dead cat a little bit. Next is so I'm trying to adjust the sound. I've got this new dead cat, this fuzzy thing over my microphone, but it's got hair all over my mouth. If I hold it, it works better. Next is number 3, the homunculus. The homunculus is the little mortal who lives inside my head behind my eyes. Not really, but yeah, really. So there really isn't a little man back there. Like, I picture a little man in a cockpit in my head, pulling levers and pushing knobs. That, of course, does not exist. But I like to imagine the homunculus as the instantiation, the image of my consciousness. Because my consciousness is really an emergent quality of move over one. An emergent quality of my mind. It's something that comes out of that. There isn't, my consciousness doesn't exist in any one of my brain cells. It's a combination of my entire nervous system and brain. And that thing that emerges out of that is what I call the homunculus. And my reminder is that the homunculus is no more mysterious or strange than than any other part of my body, or miraculous or any other part of my body. And indeed, it's as subject to my mortality as anything else. When I die, my consciousness will wink out. There's no good reason to think otherwise. Lots of people will tell you otherwise. They'll tell you you have a soul that will carry on afterwards, but if you ask them to show you where that soul is, or give some evidence that that's the case, or that it carries on afterwards, they won't be able to do so. No one's ever been able to do that. You may get some ideas of that, but you find that the evidence that is given is just simply bad evidence. No one has good evidence. If they did have good evidence, they would be able to place that evidence right up next to their Nobel Prize. So consciousness winks out with us, and that's a reminder by the homunculus, is a reminder that so too mind. Well, this is kind of narrow right here. And next is the home of good and evil. That's number 4. A little bit dangerous right there what I was doing, because there were no cars to my right. Someone could have squeezed out. If the homunculus is the little man that lives in my head, my consciousness, the home of good and evil reside with the homunculus, and they are nothing more than my opinion and my perspective and my bias and my preference about what is right or wrong in the world. And we need to look no further than the fact that human beings seem to have, although general themes exist, they do have differences about what constitutes good and evil, and that's because it's subject to local opinion and experience and culture and age and what period of history you grew up in. If you go out into the wilderness, this is where I've talked so much about going alone, going out in the wilderness, and you won't find good, blowing in the wind in the desert, or evil written big in the stars. There's nothing but wind and stars. Good and evil are what we tell one another, and the agreements that we make among ourselves regarding what these things are. And the homunculus is what holds those, and these things die when we die. And next is the reason. Purpose. That's number 5. If purpose seems pretty crystal clear to me for life. The purpose of life is to keep on living. It's amply demonstrated by life's propensity to do just that, to try to keep individual organisms alive and to pass that life force onto the next generation. We do a very good job of that. So that's a really clear objective purpose in life, and so we can do that. And I've done that. I've had one kid, and I recommend one, given all the kids we've already got in the world. We've got plenty of people for them. But what beyond that? I can't find any other purpose beyond that, any other objective purpose, any other purpose that is crystal clear as an imperative. So I've decided to make my own purpose, and I reserve the right to do that, just to define what my purpose of my life is. It's my life after all. And I've decided that my purpose is the pursuit and execution of virtue, whereas virtue is defined as the improvement of well-being of as many as possible. And that includes very, very simple things like, for our human species, clean drinking water, comprehensive education, equality between the sexes and the races, all that kind of stuff. And it's arguable. We can argue whether these things are true. I don't think you'll get very far arguing that it's good. It's a virtuous thing to have dirty drinking water. I think we're all going to agree that that's the case. And healthy ecosystems. I don't think. Well, there seem to be some people who, in our current climate, who may deny that. But that's a whole other thing. Next, number 6 is the atomic principle. Everything in the universe is made of bits and pieces, flowing and changing and forever transforming, and so too you and me. If this was a desert video, this is where I'd pick up a handful of sand and let it blow between my fingers to illustrate the point. And I'm going to go a little fast because I maybe run out of battery. Number 7 is the principle of nature. Everything in the universe has some particular nature, and it's worthwhile to recognize what that is and to, abide that, and to at least expect nothing more than that nature. Oh, he's got a GoPro too. I'm going to swing him behind him, but I'm not going to go as fast as him. There he goes. I'll let him go, young speed demon. So it's his nature. It's the nature of that guy on that motorcycle, being young and reckless and on a sports bike, to ride in such a way that increases his chances of getting killed or maimed. Just seems to be the case. It's my nature, given my age, my experience, and the nature of the bike that I ride, a big old touring bike, to not ride like that. And it's good for me to recognize that and to abide that as well. You can just go on and on. There's nature of groups, there's natures of individuals. It's good to recognize all those things. Next is the principle of maturity. Maturity consists of wisdom and fortitude, whereas wisdom is something we acquire over time through trial and error. Fortitude is something we can exercise at any age, really through practice, where we can learn to just apply ourselves and keep it up and get ourselves to the end we want. When you put those two together, wow, what a combo. Now, next is social principle. We are social animals. We need one another to survive, and our best ends are social ends. Next is the Feast of Offal. This is number 10. Offal, O-F-F-A-L, is waste and byproduct of the butcher's art. You're cutting up stuff. You got some chopped meat, but you got some liver, some guts, some tongue, some brains, all that kind of stuff. And what do you do with it? You either throw it out or you make sausage. And in fact, when it's tossed around, can you imagine, coming around and just slurping up all that goop? Yuck. Well, we do this through the course of our lives. People around us are always tossing out their offal, the offal of their living, through unprincipled, undisciplined living. And guess what we do? We get upset, we get offended by it. Why do they act that way? Why is that guy driving so reckless? We're actually consuming that offal, that gooey goop that they're giving out, and making us upset. But we can also give up that stuff ourselves and make others upset, and gross out the world and infect the world with ours. I hope I'm not talking too loud. So number 11. So I try not to do that. I try not to, 1, consume the offal of others, and 2, give out my own offal. Number 11. The temperance. Suffering, simplicity, and apathy are the sub-principles. Temperance, of course, is our controlled consumption of all things: food, drink, work, play, and the consumption of our emotions. And suffering is a sub-principle because when we exercise restraint, we have to suffer while we're denying ourselves what we want. Simplicity is a way of life. If you live a simple life, you're not going to need to exercise as much temperance, because by virtue of the way you live, you're living temperance. And then apathy. Apathy is a word that gets a bad rap. Apathy is actually a virtue when you can apply it to the things that you can't control. If the rain starts coming down right now, there's no sense in me getting upset about that. I can't control the rain. I can adjust and accommodate, pull over, get my rain gear out, but it's a good thing if I can keep an even keel, maintain my equanimity in the face of things that I can't control. That's apathy. Now here's all slowing down. Got to watch out, people, for zooming into this lane. Next, agency and the great indifference, number 12. Agents are anyone and anything that's alive. The great indifference is the great expanse of the universe that's not alive, the inorganic universe that just doesn't give a damn about any of us. And all I'm trying to say is that if you want to find peace, love, harmony, compassion, virtue, you got to look to living agents, whether it's you and me or dog or cat. Cats to a lesser degree maybe, but you get the idea. Next is number 13 is the best seat in the house. Reminding myself that to not want to be anyone else, be anywhere else, or be doing anything else, but just to be okay with just who I am. And it's a tricky thing because it's not a matter of just resigning yourself to wherever you are, but continually actively working towards improvement while at the same time being all right with where you are and what you are and who you are. Next is the Path of Wildness. The Path of Wildness is something I started in Japan in response to all those young people who wrote to me saying, I really want to come to Japan and have a life and go on adventures. How do you do that? And I would say, simply give yourself time to make a decision. Collect the facts as much as you can before that time comes. When that time comes, either do one of two things. Make a decision or give yourself more time. But only give yourself more time within reason. Eventually you'll come to a point where you have to make a decision. And if you haven't got enough facts, then allow your gut to influence you. Go with your gut feeling. Recognizing that your gut may not be right. It may lead you off a cliff. But also recognize that there is virtue in moving forward. The Path of Wildness is a way to get unstuck in life. and also to recognize the risks in that very process. Next is the risk of avoiding risk. Early on in life, we're given all kinds of admonition to avoid, to get enough education, to find a good job, find someone to marry and settle down with and have kids and save your money. And a lot of us work really hard on those essential things. I call those the surface level risks of life, and they're pretty easy to identify and avoid. And that made sense when we didn't live very long, so it was good to secure all those things and enjoy the fruits of those things. But guess what? We live a long time now. You can actually live several lifetimes at once. So I recommend that you also pursue the deeper level risks of life, which are the risks of not, if you're so inclined to have a creative, dynamic, adventurous life, to not pursue that and become the man or woman that you might want to be. And I recommend doing that in the decade of your 20s. Give yourself the whole darn decade to go as far as you can in school, have as many adventures as you can, see as much of the world, make some mistakes along the way. Just don't get any pregnant. Don't get married too soon unless you really want to. There's plenty of time for that stuff later. And then later in your 30s, you can do all that rest. Start the career, get married, start the family. I think you'll actually find the marriage and family part easier later in life too, because you will have been, for the marriage, it's going to be easier to find someone because you're going to be a lot more interesting later in life to the kinds of people that are going to enjoy an interesting life with you. And also as a family part, you're going to be a much better parent if you start later, after you've sated yourself of those desire for adventure, and you don't feel like your kids are depriving you of that opportunity. You didn't miss anything. You engage in that along the way. It's a good path, I think. But it's risky because you may not find anybody. You may not find a good job. You may miss the mark on the career or savings the money, and you may end up, missing out on some of that stuff. But I would say it's much better to have failed with those first risks than to have missed the mark on those deeper level risks. You can be satisfied. You can be satisfied, poor, struggling, but satisfied with a rich personal life that you develop. It's a rare individual that can do both. I'm not one of them. I did much better with the deeper stuff than I did the shallower stuff. Next is the risk of avoiding. Oh, I just did that one. Next is after the risk of avoiding risk is sin and damnation. In my worldview, there are 5 types of sin. Five main items of sin, and they're all the same thing. These are falsity, credulity, faith, superstition, and dogma. And the reason I call these all the same is that they're all basically variations of believing things that aren't true, or easily of being willing to believe things that aren't well substantiated as true. Falsity, of course, is just believing false things. Credulity is an overeagerness to believe what you're told. Faith is an awful thing that it's a vice that parades around as a virtue. I mean, the very definition that most people use is, evidence of things unseen. Well, things unseen are things unseen. They don't have evidence other than feelings about what we want to be true is not a good evidence that it's actually true. If that's good reasoning for you, then my worldview is probably not something that's going to fit well for you. You're operating in a landscape where your satisfaction, what's meaningful evidence for you would not be meaningful evidence for me. We just don't operate in the same way. Superstition and dogma, clearly, I mean, they are just instantiations of credulity. That's all they are, especially dogma. Oh my gosh. I just cringe at the idea of someone saying, this is truth because I say so, or because history says so, or because the masses say so. Oh gosh, how can anybody buy that? I mean, even if it's true, just the very nature of the way it's being presented, begs to be questioned. And the consequence of that is damnation, but not damnation in some afterlife, because I don't think there is any afterlife. Damnation in the here and now. It's damnation to live your life believing things that aren't true. What a damnable way of life in my little worldview. Next, then, closing in on the end now, is we just did Sin and Damnation. Oh, I think it's the Great Life Adventure. I talked about that a little bit earlier. Great Life Adventure is one or more periods of life or adventures in life where you get a chance to exercise who you are, develop yourself, your character, your personality, develop the stories that will make you the most interesting person at the cocktail party later in life, and also one day perhaps form the foundation of your own personal philosophy. Give yourself that in your 20s and throughout your life. Now watch out, don't come over. Now next is the Great Life Adventure is the Season of Philosophy. Season of Philosophy, that was a little tight right there. The Season of Philosophy is a period of life to write down what we've learned and what we've discovered. And that may come early or late, and my simple admonition is when it comes, listen and write it down. Record it, make a vlog, make a video, get out the tape recorder, get out the easel and pencils and art pens or oils or whatever medium you use. Storytelling, I don't care what it is, but when the muse starts speaking, you start catching that stuff and recording it, even if it's just in a journal that you save it away, and then save that away for your kids. And if you're really bold, publish it. And if you're really bold, publish it all. And by publish, I mean get a little blog out, put whatever medium is, whatever you've got out there. I mean, and I'm still working on this, man. Publish it all, even the weird stuff. Yeah, because sometimes there's something to that, and the feedback you get may be helpful, but recognize that you will be misunderstood. It's just the nature of the beast, and you will be criticized, and it will be hard, but it's worthwhile. And also, if you don't do it, and when the muse speaks to you, when that little voice comes, you'll probably lose it. The opportunity will pass. You know, what you could write in your 20s, you will not be able to write in your 30s, and likewise your 40s and your 50s. Every decade has its muse and its voice that you will lose. Whoa, I lost a gear there. Also, the worst possibility is if you wait so long that you're disabled by a stroke or something like that, and you wind up sitting in a hospital bed and you can't get it out because you can't get it out, yet the words are stuck in your head, and you're about to wink out and disappear from life, and you never got to tell your story. Don't lose that chance. Get that story out. And last one, arena and utility. Life is an arena for the opportunity, for the arena for us to use our critical faculties, our ability to exercise our objectives and develop our principles. Oh, look, an accident. And enjoy this arena, and every one of your principles and objectives is like a utility, a tool in your toolbox that you can use to live a better life. And with that, that's it. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Looks like something going on over there. Hopefully this audio came through okay. That's like it's on fire. Oh no. There's steam or something coming up. Maybe just steam. And with that, I'm going to sign off. Thank you for joining me on my Good Life meditation. Just another couple miles and I'll be home. Have a great night, everybody. A great day. Make it a good life. Take care. Until next time.